Well, welcome to Dr. Russ Air Rifles. I'm Dr. Russ. Welcome to Southeast Michigan. This is our front yard. We spent all morning shoveling, as you can see. We had about 10 inches yesterday, and then last night another 10. We've got 20 inches out there. That's caused a little bit of a problem with the planned timing and schedule of our videos. And so we've been doing a little backpedaling, and so we're going to go inside instead of filming outside. Quite a maze of repellents and poisons and live traps and lethal traps here on this table. And if you missed them, you'll want to see the past 2 videos that we've done on live and lethal trapping. We've discussed all of these, live traps, repellents. You see a crossbow, a pellet rifle, a pellet pistol, a device that hums in the ground. You name it, we've got it here. We also discussed a little bit about all the licenses that you need to be doing trapping and hunting legally. And I had to get them because we do all these videos, but you'll really want to be aware of not only your state laws, your federal laws on, they're basically on animals that cross state lines, geese, ducks, trout, salmon, those kind of things. But then the state considers all the animals in the state theirs, and you must obey their laws, whether you're hunting or trapping. And those are 2 different laws with 2 different valid dates on them. And then we have a whole bunch of animals that are just destructive critters. And they are going to be open most of the year. But after doing all this, I've come to the conclusion after talking to a number of people and watching a number of people who want to pick up some sort of trapping or taking care of some destructive critters. I've come across 7 mistakes that they make. And I want to make sure I cover those before we go into our 4th video, where we actually go up into my attic and we hunt for destructive critters up there. Let me share one article from the Washington Post this past year about coyotes, specifically a coyote with rabies. And here in the first sentence of the first paragraph, it says a coyote that bit 2 women and a child, it's 3, in Rockville on Thursday tested positive for rabies after being fatally shot by the police. Boy, can they be destructive. They can be destructive to your property. They can be destructive to you. But what we wanted to do was not only make you aware of how destructive they can be, we wanted to make sure in this video that you understand the 7 basic mistakes that trappers often get involved in. And it keeps them from getting the critter they wanted trapped. First of all, let me tell you that the first mistake is location, location, location. You need to find those paths and trails. They like to go down the side of a building, along a fence, along a river. And you'll see, if you look carefully, you'll find their paths. We want to find those paths. The second biggest mistake is that the trap is not set right on the path. Right on the path. Not off to the side. I mean, sometimes these guys are just boogieing down a lane here, and they're not looking left or right, and they miss your trap. So let's put it right in the trap, if you will. A lot of hunters and trappers get out while there's snow and find these paths much more quicker and definitively. This is a path of a possum, sticking close to the buildings, worked its way across a swimming pool underneath all that snow, and then over there to the right, and it just kept on going. So if I'm after a possum, I'd put a trap right on that path, probably over there on the left. Third biggest mistake is that the bait, in this case peanut butter, is not put on the plates the main plate that triggers, whether it be whatever, any kind of trap you're using. We want this bait beyond, because see, the plate that's in here, this plate is really for their body weight. And when their body weight gets on it, because they're reaching over to get that bait out there, that's what sets this off, is body weight, not nibbling on food. If I put the food on that plate, a mouse could come by, sniff it, eat all of it, and never set the trap off. Cats will do the same thing. And all of a sudden, your trap has no bait in it. So, and it didn't catch anything either. So we want the bait beyond the triggering device. That's something that you really want to do. And then the next thing is the actual setup. I said that setting it on the path was very important. Trappers call it the set. What does the set look like? I'm sure a producer of a movie or something says, well, what's the set look like? Key to a movie or a theater presentation. What's the set? Well, this is probably the biggest failing out of the 7 failings of trapping. So let's talk about that specifically. So here I'm going to try to mention all of the mistakes that are done just with a setup. And the setup is critical to what we do here. I normally take a small spade like this. Sometimes I take the one that looks like a rake, and I want to get this area flat. It might be hilly or a lot of leaves or whatever on it. I want to get a nice flat area. This is the side view of the setup. Now, I then want to take my spade and I want to cut a hole in here and put the trap here so that you might look at it like this. Here's the trap. It's in that hole, and the dirt level is right about here. You notice I'm wearing these surgical gloves. You can get them at Harbor Freight. You can get them at medical supplies. You can get them on the internet. But I think they come in blue and purple and black. I think they're different thicknesses, and they're cheap. The last thing you want is any scent here. So what we have is the trap inside the ground so that it's all level. Most of the time, a critter is walking on level ground. We've got to keep it level. The next thing we do in the field, we can do it with that spade, but it's easier just to take a power drill, and with a big bit on it like this, we can drill a hole in the ground. This creates dirt up on top. We push it aside. We're going to use it here in a minute. Well, why did we need this vertical hole? As you can see, it's one thing to get an animal's foot into a trap. It's another thing for him to not run off with your trap. So what we do is, with this piece of iron, is that we stick that, there's a hole here, and we stick this, and we pound that right down into the ground, so that only some of this is showing. Some guys will add more chain to this. Some will put a cable onto it a couple feet and bury the cable so that they have more movement. But in the end, what we have is a trap underground, and we have this chain buried. And while you don't have a lot of trouble pulling it straight up, an animal pulling it sideways is not going to get much distance here. So we have that. Now we take this spade again. And remember, the trap is not where we put the food. What we do is we dig a hole right here, much like a snake hole. And we dig this hole, and it's got to be the length of that spade, so that when we put the bait down in the end of it, and that animal comes across here and steps on the plate, setting it off, by the way. But before he does it, boy, trail cameras will show you he's stepping all around it, but he's got to step right on that plate to set it off. And so you want this kind of measured with the bait down in here in this long hole. this creates more dirt that we've put off to the side. Now I want to explain here something, the difference between bait and an attractant or lure. These dots out here represent attractants or lures. These are not things that animals eat, but boy do they smell. And that brings the animal to the trap. Something dead. You can get these on the internet, lures, attractants, but that's not your bait. They bring animals to it, they smell it, they're not going to eat it, but at least it got their attention, and so they came. What they really want now is that bait. And I think it was our second video that we covered all the different foods that are attracted to critters. We kind of went through the critter list to come up with that. If it's a fox or coyote, I like to throw some feathers in this area like some bird had been hit. I've gotten feathers out of pillowcases. You can buy feathers. You go around a bird feeder, you'll find feathers. They get in fights on those bird feeders to get to the food. So a couple of feathers, again, none of it with human scent. And that makes it look quite real. So far, we're looking pretty good with one exception. What if they come up over here and come down and dig in here? They've escaped your trap. What if they come in from a side like this? They've escaped your trap. So the rest of the set is all about narrowing the path down so that they will step on that plate. So I've got a second drawing. I want you to only pay attention now to this second half, because this is an aerial view, a top view of this same trap. Here's that hole right there that has the bait way down in the bottom of it. Here's our trap. In this particular case, if you notice, my trap had some little extra pieces sticking out. By the way, this is called a coil trap. It's also called a jumper because it jumps right out of the ground when they set it off. But I wanted it to fit, so I've got to take my tool here and actually get some space there so the whole trap will set down into the ground. A small, maybe half the chain showing, and then it goes into that hole. So you kind of get what the top view here and how it relates to this picture up here. Well, we're not done. We can lay a couple of logs in here, and that will keep the animal inside this space. We can put some stuff, some thicket up here to keep them from coming at it from this angle. These little dots here are, oh, I'd say they're about the size of a skewer stick that you might eat shish kebab or something on. But anyway, you'll find them all around. You can take your knife and cut them, any little straight sticks, and they'll be maybe this high. And it's kind of providing a fence with these rocks or whatever to bring them in to this area the correct way, because they can only come in this way, step on that trap while they're trying to get into this hole. I was trying to get a bobcat, and I had these rocks here. And, you know, cats are more curious than they are hungry. And this bobcat came along, and it decided to walk on the rocks. So it's up here on these rocks. I didn't have these sticks yet. And it came right on up, then it smelled the bait and went in here and got away. My bait was never taken. Then I remembered years and years ago with my grandfather, he had some trap set and he caught some bobcats. And what he did was he took a piece of cactus. Now you gotta be careful because places like Arizona and everything, they've got their cactus numbered out there in the desert, believe it or not, for protection. But there's cactus that's available. He took, 50 years ago, he took a slice of cactus and he laid it in here. And those prongs were sticking up, and that kept the bobcat, he even had it here, it kept the bobcat coming in from down here. Well, we don't have cactus up here in Michigan. So that's what gave me the idea of putting these sticks up. And if you have it set up like this, again, this is critical distance. So he's standing here while his nose is in here. You'll get him. Now, if you don't get him, one of the ways is to get a trail camera like this one. I don't push specific brands, but this trail camera has a telephone connection and sends me photos of who's messing around my set. And that will tell me and show me exactly how they're either being caught or how their escape being caught. In tomorrow's video, when we're up in my attic hunting raccoons, squirrels, etc., I had a friend named John. He's going to send me some video. He just caught some squirrels in his attic, but he didn't catch them in the attic. He caught them outside that attic. And that's really what you want to do, because they can make a big mess up there in the attic. If you're trapped there, they can pee, they can poo, they can bleed, they can do 100 things. And particularly with a litter of pups. So he was able to come up with a trap, and I'll share that one with you tomorrow. Be sure and subscribe so that you can catch our videos first thing when they what we call launched. Now, I said there's 7 mistakes. This was number 4, not having the setup. Let me just cover the last 3 very quickly. This trap has to be secure. It can't be rocking around, movement. Animals don't like to walk on solid ground and then all of a sudden feel something wobbly. They'll be gone. So you want to push it in and get it crunched in there. Now, one of the problems, particularly if you saw the first of the video with 10 inches of snow out there, is what about snow and things getting down in the trap? What about it rusting? What about all those kinds of things? So on the internet, you can find baits, you can find lures, but you can also find pieces of silicone, and you can just use some wax paper like this, and you lay it on top of that trap. And what happens is it can still be set off when the animal's foot hits it. But what this piece of paper or silicone is doing is they're keeping rocks from tumbling down, dirt from getting in there, and keeping it from being able to set off. Number 6 is that when we set this trap, we set it either too sensitive or too strong. We want it to be just right. It may take a couple of times for you to do it. You might want to tap it a couple of times to see what will set it off. But you don't want to come back and find this thing has been set off because of a mouse, a cat, something like that has set it off inappropriately. You don't want it to be so strong that you watch a video and here's an animal, 2 animals doing a dance or something on the thing, and it never goes off. So I hope today the 7 most common mistakes that trappers make when they're out there, I hope that you follow these. I hope that you can use some of the data that's in these videos of repellents for those of you who aren't wanting to kill these critters. Certainly some items that help you kill if that's it. And tomorrow we're gonna have a little safari up in my attic. I hope to see you then. I promise all of this will help you become more airgun sharp.